Good day, my sisters and brothers. As we begin the Easter Triduum, I would suggest we might turn our thoughts to the words of the psalmist in the responsorial psalm for this evening. The response is, "Our blessing cup is a communion with the blood of Christ. Our blessing cup is a communion with the blood of Christ. How shall I make a return to the Lord for all the good he has done for me? The cup of salvation I will take up, and I will call upon the name of the Lord. Our blessing cup is a communion with the blood of Christ. Precious in the eyes of the Lord is the death of his faithful ones. I am your servant, the son and daughter of your handmaid. You have loosed my bonds. Our blessing cup is a communion with the blood of Christ. To you will I offer sacrifice of thanksgiving, and I will call upon the name of the Lord. My vows to the Lord I will pay in the presence of all his people. Our blessing cup is a communion with the blood of Christ." As a little boy seeing Jesus on the cross, I would sometimes get very concerned. This concern reached its peak one Holy Week when I was staying with my grandmother in Connecticut. I was 5 years old at the time. Early one morning, my grandmother awoke to find me in the middle of her living room floor, trying desperately to pry the figure of Jesus off of a crucifix with her letter opener. She walked into the room and said quietly, "Jeffrey, what are you doing?" A few more unsuccessful jabs later, my frustration exploded into tears. "Oh, Grandma, it's so terrible." She came over, she picked me up, she carried me in her arms to her rocking chair, and we just rocked. When I finally had settled down, she said, "What's so terrible?" "Grandma, what they did to Jesus, it's so terrible." We rocked some more, and then she said, "Yes, Jeffrey, it was so terrible. But you must look at him as he is on the cross. Someday you will understand, and it will make you very happy." It was one of the few times in my life that such a seemingly evasive answer was enough. Even though her words made no sense to me, I had no doubt that my grandmother did understand and that she was happy. She had looked at Jesus as he was on the cross, and she had come to accept a mystery, a knowledge about Jesus. Amid the horror of that terrible event, there was joy to be found. As I remember back about my grandmother, I think of a woman for whom life was not always kind. Her grandfather was a poor immigrant from Ireland escaping the potato famine. Her infant daughter died in her arms during the influenza epidemic of 1918. The disaster of the Great Depression had left her husband a broken and bitter man. And yet, through it all, she continued to believe, to hope, to love. Amid the terrible events of life, she continued to look at Jesus as he was. In the years that have followed, my understanding of this event has waxed and waned, never quite secure in my knowledge. There are still times when I would much prefer to take Jesus down from the cross, though in subtler ways than with a letter opener. When I allow Jesus to stay on the cross, I know I behold a mystery. But mystery is something that daily life isn't accustomed to, something that leaves us very unsettled. My grandmother knew that in the mystery of the crucifixion, there is a message of ultimate love. But I can find myself turning away, wishing that he didn't love me so much. My grandmother knew that in the mystery of the cross is a message about all living and dying. Jesus Christ crucified is a mystery which says no suffering is too great, no well of loneliness is so deep that God has not already experienced and known it in his Son. But there are times when I prefer to think the suffering of the world cannot be explained or understood. In so many ways, we don't want Jesus on a cross. We want the mystery removed. And yet, my dear sisters and brothers, if there is any certainty in the Paschal mystery, it is that we must bring ourselves and our world to that event of the lonely hill of Golgotha, if we wish to rise with Christ on Easter morning. Once again, this Holy Week, we are invited to pierce the mystery of Christ crucified, allowing him to reveal the meaning of his life so freely given for us on the cross. God bless you.